Are you planning on immigrating to New Zealand? Or maybe you're at that stage where you've just received that job offer. And as exciting as that is, because it means it's real and you can actually now start putting everything in play to be able to actually move here, it does come with a whole lot of other questions. It comes with those questions about, is the job offer enough? Will I be able to support my family on what they're offering me? Is it enough money? That's where we were 2.5 years ago. And as daunting as it is to move from one end of the world to the other alone, it's even more so when you've got a whole family that's relying on you. So that's why I wanted to create this tutorial. I wanted to share with you what we've learned over the last 2.5 years. I want to help you be in a better situation, be better prepared than what we were, and just learn from us. What I want to do in this tutorial is I will go through your living expenses line item by line item, but not only give you my opinion of how much you need to earn to be able to support a family of 4, but also share with you some of the hidden costs, some of the things that we didn't know, and you don't know what you don't know, but you could be better prepared than us. But also give you my opinion on what you would need as your initial budget or living expenses the first 6 to 12 months. But then once you've got a second income coming in, what you could delay and only add on once you've got that second income coming in. Also show you the little differences of what we learned with the way that things work here with regards to what needs to be paid weekly or fortnightly versus monthly. Getting paid either weekly or fortnightly or monthly, and what the differences are and the things you've got to keep in mind with that in play. Also just share with you how we've taken out a credit card, how we've taken out a loan, and just how the banking works here. So I just want to help you be better prepared so you can have a softer landing and just hopefully settle quicker than what we did and learn from us what we've learned over the last 2.5 years. So this sounds like something that can help you or it would interest you. Let's get stuck in. Okay, welcome to the video. So just before we jump right in and start going through a lot of figures and spreadsheets and websites and information that I want to share with you, I think I wanted to set the scene a little bit. This is going to be a long video. There's a lot of information that I'm going to be sharing, and I know it can even be a little bit boring because I'm going through it's spreadsheets and figures, and it's not the most fun stuff in the world to go through, but I really want you to understand why I'm doing this. What's so important to me is that I want people that are in the situation we were in 2 years ago, that are coming to New Zealand, to be well informed, to be able to do as much homework as possible, to be as accurate and clear as possible on what it's going to cost them to be able to make it work here. There's nothing worse than, it's heartbreaking, where I read up on these social media groups and I see people that have come across from wherever they've come in the world to New Zealand and they struggle financially. It's hard enough trying to do this and move to this side of the world and make it work, and not have to worry about money, but to have to worry about money on top of it, it's like, it's a killer. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. So I really want to try and share this information to try and empower you to be able to be as accurate as possible with your budgets to be able to make this work. So that when you get here, you're not going to go back home, you're not going to give up, that you can rather spend your energy on all the other things we need to spend our energy on to make this work and settle. Okay, not on now worrying about, oh geez, I'm not earning enough money and how do I make more money. Let's be honest, if you've got enough money, that's a big step in the right direction. You can get through a lot of other stuff, but as long as the money's there and you've got enough income coming in, you can make this work. I don't want to lose people to going back home. And even worse, we want people to be able to stay in New Zealand. You want people to be able to make this move, come here and actually stay and make it work so we can make New Zealand an even better country than what it is now. We've got such a brain drain on this country at the moment where a lot of people are leaving New Zealand to go to Australia because they pay better, they've got better opportunities, whatever else, which is not good for this country. So I need those talented people that are coming, that are going to stay here and actually be able to make it work. But the first step is being able to really do your homework and know financially what you need. And let me say, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice at all. This is all on my experience, all on my personal opinion of what you need, how much you need to make it work here, what I believe you need in your budget or your expenses initially versus one salary versus two incomes coming in. It's tips and tricks and things that we've learned over the 2 years of being here, so that hopefully you can learn from us. That's all this is about. With the intention is to help you, so that when you get here, you're well informed, and that you can actually make this work. That it will be a softer landing for you. That you can make New Zealand home. That you won't give up. You won't go back home. You'll call this home. You'll stay here and not leave Australia or anywhere else. So that's what the whole goal of today is really to share that. But I really wanted to ask you to sit tight, because I know it is quite a lot of information I'm going to go through, and it's going to be a long video. So with that in mind, one of the things that you'll want to do is probably bookmark this video, save this video, because you're going to want to refer and go back to it when you're busy building out your own budgets, so that you can keep going back and checking it out. But also maybe you want to make some notes as I'm going through things. Maybe you'll have questions. You can post questions after you watch the video, and I'll try to get back to you as quick as possible with answers if I know the answers to any of those. But take notes, but also just notes for your own benefit of stuff that's important to you. I will share templates and workbooks, so maybe on that point I can show you over and above you bookmarking and saving it, so you can go back. Let me move my mug out of the way and go up over here. Yep, this is the spreadsheet that I'm going to be going through. But over and above the spreadsheet that I'm going to be going through, let me show you some of the templates that I want to show you. So the first thing I will go through is a workbook. So let me show you my workbook here. Go to the top of the workbook. What I'll do is I'll make this available for download. So this is just a workbook that I've put together that I'll share with you guys, which it just gives you a little bit of what I feel is important, my message for why I'm doing this over and above what I've told you. But what it also does is it'll give you a glimpse into what I think is important when you're doing goal setting and planning for the future. So one of the big things that I do every single year is I look at all the different areas in my life, and I try and work out what I'm going to try and accomplish and what the goal is going to be in that year. And then I touch base on a monthly and quarterly basis to see how I'm tracking. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous. Some people will not do that. I'm just saying it's important to me. So I will eventually have a private community group app that everybody can join, and I will start running sessions where we go through understanding clearly what is your why, what is your purpose. And I know it's very much with what Simon Sinek does, but I find it works for me in my life, especially since we've moved here to New Zealand. It's helped me be able to try get focused, to try start getting a plan. Without a plan, I'd feel like a headless chicken. So to me, it's important. It's been a good way for me to understand that purpose and why, what's important to me, start setting my goals that are in line with me achieving whatever my purpose and my why is. And once I was clear on that purpose and the why I'm here and what I'm trying to achieve and do in my life, and in each area of my life, it really made it a lot easier to work out, well, what do I need to do to achieve it, and how am I going to get that? So this workbook starts off with getting you to start thinking about your purpose and your why, so you can really start getting that clarity. What is your mission in life? What are you trying to achieve? What do you need to do? What does it look like? Your utopia, your goals, your mission, what does it look like? So it starts making you think a little bit, because once you think about those, then you can start working through your wheel of life, which is all the different areas of your life, like finance or health or family, personal growth, or all your career, all the different areas of your life. You can start being specific in those areas and start saying, okay, with my mission and my purpose in mind and what I'm trying to achieve and what I'm trying to do, what do I need to do with my finances to help me get there? What do I need to do and address with my health to help me get there? What's important that I'm missing with my family and making memories, and my relationship with my wife or your partner? So it breaks it down so you can really start having a clear plan and drive of what you're trying to do. So this is what I'm starting to share in the work group. I'm not going to go through this in the tutorial, so don't get worried like, oh my goodness, is he going to go through all of this with me? No. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what I do, and I will have different sessions for that, but just explain with the workbook that I'm sharing with you, so it can start getting you to think about all those different areas in your life, your goals, your mission. But over and above that, it's also just going to give you a little bit of notes. So it's got a notepad. If you printed this out, you can start taking notes while I'm going through tutorial, and when you bookmark it and you go back to certain sections, you can write stuff out. I will talk through different links and tools and everything, like the PAYE calculator. So I do refer to it here in the workbook, talking about DTI. So that was a big thing for me, you know. We 2 and a bit years ago, we left South Africa and we were in our 40s starting all over again in New Zealand. And one thing that, yeah, it's taken all my finances, my savings and everything to get us set up here. So we're literally starting again at the age of 40, where you got to build up your whole financial world again and your retirement and everything. You're starting from scratch. But what it has shown me is that I can use my years of experience, the stuff that I've learned, not only what I've learned positively, but the things that we did wrong or that we could have done better. You can learn from that now and do better. So one of the things, for example, is your DTI, and making sure your debt to income is below 20%. Don't get yourself into too much debt, okay? Because that just makes it so much harder. And if you had to settle all your debt to leave the country you're in, to start all over again in the new country, don't get into those bad habits of building up the debt again. So keep in mind that DTI. Learn from what you did in the past so you can do that much better. So that's one of the things that I'm also sharing in the workbook, and then just some quotes and obviously notes. So I will share this and make it downloadable for you in the video. But what we can do now is let's jump right into the actual crux of it. So before I get into this template now, and this is a template over and above the workbook I'll share with you, and this one is key, and this is what I'm going to be working through, is this template I will work through if you're getting a monthly income, one income in the home, starting off with a family of 4, what I believe is critical to have in your budget as line item expenses to just make it to survive, not thrive, but it's like your beginning. This is what you would need as a bare minimum. Giving you the options between a monthly income and how it works and the tips and tricks versus a fortnightly income, so getting paid every 2 weeks. So what we learned the hard way sometimes, between getting paid monthly and getting paid fortnightly, and run through 2 budgets and line items on that. But then also give you a breakdown of if you have 2 incomes. So what we did is, when we started 2.5 years ago, we were blessed enough to be able to make it. And our plan was, I was the primary candidate. I got a job offer. And for the first 6 to 12 months, we were going to live off just my income for a family of 4. And then only after 6 to 12 months would my wife find a job. And then she would start working. And then we would have 2 incomes. So the reason we did that is we wanted her to be able to have the time to settle the family, to start trying to just make New Zealand home a little bit first. So get the kids into school, get us to know our surroundings, deal with actually kitting out the home and making it a home. So she had the luxury, and we had the luxury, of her being able to do that. I say luxury because it is a luxury to be able to have her do that, to be able to afford to live and survive on just one income, because it's damn tough here. Don't get me wrong, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing this video, is I don't want you to have blinkers on and come across and be desperate and accept any offer and just think, oh, well, we've got the offer, we'll make it work. It's tough. If you don't have enough money, everything else is tough on its own, let alone the money. So that's why it has been a blessing for us to do it on one salary. But I'm going to talk through what I believe you need and how much that one salary needs to be versus what it was like when we got 2 incomes coming in and what we added on and where we're at now. So I'm going to talk you through all of this in this video today. So let's jump in and get started. So before I get into this Excel spreadsheet and start being boring and going through, and I'll try to keep it as upbeat as possible, boring going through numbers, one of the first things that I found so invaluable was a calculator or tool, which was a PAYE tool. So let's clear this out, put it down to 0 so I can show you, refresh the page. In that Excel spreadsheet, in that template that I'm going to be sharing with you, I do have a tab with all the different links to all the different tools and sites that I talk about in this video and more. So one of them is this PAYE tool and link. So you will get it in my template, and you'll have the link to it. But this is invaluable. What this tool does for you is, when you get that first job offer, the most important thing was, you really got it in the back of your mind, is the offer enough? Can I support my family? Can I make it work with the amount of money that they're offering me? Okay, and how much will I get out, and how much will I pay on tax, and what are the other hidden things that are going to be on my salary deductions slip? So how much money am I actually going to get out? And then with what I'm getting out is, what do I actually have to pay for? That's what I'm going to try and address today. So a good starting point is this tool. I found this tool to be very accurate. So compared to what I'm earning now and what they've broken down on my salary slip, it's within $1. It's like right there. So what you would start off by doing, let's say you get that first job offer, and let's say that first job offer is $124,000 a year. Okay, so you're getting an offer of $124,000 a year. You put in that gross amount, put it in the yearly. I will talk to KiwiSaver and I'll explain what it is now, but I'm going to put in the KiwiSaver at 3%. Okay, so just do me a favor, make sure you don't forget your KiwiSaver, put it in at 3%. I'll explain what it is. So it's $124,000 a year, 3%. Click on calculate. What it does for you now, let me move my mug down out the way there, is you'll see that it'll give you what your gross pay is. So let's look at a monthly first. So the monthly option is over here. You will be earning the $10,333 a month based on getting $124 per annum or per year. Your tax amount will work out to $2,566. Your ACC, I'll tell you and I'll explain what ACC is, will be $172 that'll come off, and your KiwiSaver will be $310. So your take home, your net, the amount of money you will get in your bank every month would be $7,284. So this calculator has been invaluable in helping us work that out. So whether you're getting paid monthly, you're getting paid fortnightly, weekly, hourly, it breaks it down for you based on whatever the offer is to you. So this is an invaluable tool as a starting point to work out what is going to be the bare minimum deductions for tax, ACC and KiwiSaver based on what you're earning, so you know how much you're coming out with, and be it weekly, fortnightly, monthly, what you're going to come out with. Okay, so let's start off, before I go to the Excel spreadsheet and start breaking down each line item by line item. One of the first things you'll want to understand is, well, what is ACC? So ACC is an accident fund. It's a government accident fund that everybody contributes and pays into. So in the event that you have an accident or something happens to you or one of your family members, it'll be covered by that fund. So it wouldn't be covered by you wouldn't have to have your private medical insurance to cover you. So an example, my son was running on the pavement, running towards the car and on the pavement or the sidewalk, and he tripped and he split his lip. My wife was able to rush him off to emergency to get his lip fixed up and everything like that. It wasn't covered by our private medical, it was covered by ACC. So what the emergency rooms did is they put in an ACC claim against my son, and he was 100% covered. All the costs and everything, anything to do with that accident that happened is covered by ACC. Another example is me. I was at the gym and I hurt my knee at the gym. I went to the GP, made an appointment with the GP, told him what happened. He said, that's an ACC claim. The GP puts in an ACC claim, and then anything related to that injury, it was my knee, goes against an ACC claim. So all the physio, everything else that I had to go to sort out my knee went and was paid for against the ACC. So that's what ACC is. Then the next thing that you might want to know is, well, what is KiwiSaver? Well, KiwiSaver, it's an investment or a fund that they put aside for your retirement. So as law is today, and we're in May of 2025, the minimum you can contribute towards a KiwiSaver is 3%. You can increase the amount you want to pay in towards your KiwiSaver, but you cannot be less than 3%. Government is in talks at the moment, and it's probably going to get passed, where they are increasing that to 4%. But crappy that you get out a little bit less every month, but it is good for your future. So it's a good thing to be able to contribute more. This is all about having enough money to retire, not be a burden on your kids, to be able to look after yourselves in your old age and retire. That's what the KiwiSaver is all about. So 3% of whatever you're earning as it stands today will go towards your KiwiSaver. A lot of job offers that you get in a lot of companies, they will either match or contribute up to a certain percentage as well towards your KiwiSaver. So if you're contributing 3%, they may also in the job offer as a benefit contribute 3% as well. So just look at that in your job offer as well, which would mean you'd be getting 6% put towards your KiwiSaver every single month, as an example. But look at what is in your job offer to see what you would get. But again, you could work that out with this calculator. You can change the percentages to whatever the percentages will be with yours and your company's contribution together. So you would know what it is. But bear in mind, if you do that, if your company's contributing, it's generally over and above as a benefit, your 124. So just put in your percentage of your contribution so you can get an accurate amount of take-home pay for yourself. So this tool is invaluable, I've found. So that's your first starting point, in my opinion, when you get that job offer, to start working out how much you would be able to take home, so that you can go into the next point that I'm going to go to, which is the budget. So this template, as I said, I will share with you. First line item that I've got on the budget, right at the top, is rent. You need to get a roof over your head. Cost of living here in New Zealand is high. One of the most expensive things is property and rental. So almost half of your salary is going to go towards just keeping a roof over your family's head. It is expensive. It was a real eye-opener for us. That is a huge cost and a huge expense that you have to budget for. Well, I can only talk to us being in Auckland. So I know in other parts of New Zealand it can be a little bit cheaper. Rental might be a little bit less than what it is up here in Auckland. Auckland is known to be a little bit more expensive. That said, I am not in CBD. I am an hour north of CBD, but yet it's still a new area. It's not cheap, but it's not the most expensive either. So I'm basing it on my personal experience, on what I feel you need to budget for a 3 or 4 bedroom home for a family of 4. Okay, so that's what I've budgeted on. So what I've budgeted is $900 a week that you would need to pay. That's also another thing you need to get used to. The way the rentals work here is they deduct that rental from you. You pay it per week. You don't pay it per month. Where I come back from in South Africa, you would pay your rental or your mortgage or your bond on a monthly basis, whereas here with your rent, you pay it on a weekly basis. So the thing that we had to learn the hard way is, if you're paying weekly, remember there's certain months, there's probably about 4 or 5 months in the year that are 5-week months. So don't get caught off guard like we did, where you budget for a 4-week month and then you suddenly get one of those 5-week months and your budget is extremely tight that month. So always consider the 5-week months, okay? Have a little bit extra. So you'll see here I've said $900 a week, but I'm budgeting a little bit more, so it's $3,900 per month. So I've got a little bit extra being put aside for those 5-week months. Again, it also does depend on when you get here. If you get here and you go straight into one of those 5-week months, just know there's about 4 months of the year that are 5-week months. So if you're paying your rental on a weekly basis, make sure you've got enough money put together from, if you're getting paid monthly, for a 5-week month. Okay, so that's a big one. So talking through this over here, let me move this a little bit out the way. Maybe I can even move this onto the other screen over here. Talking about the rental, what will help is you can go through to sites like real estate. Okay, so I'm going to go to real estate site over here. I did do a search, but I'll start again. So let's start from the beginning and show you here. This will give you a good idea where you can do a little bit of research for, and I will share these links in that template, so don't worry, you'll have the links in the template that you can download. But you can go onto this site and you can say that you're not buying, you're looking to rent, so you're going to do a search on a rental. And what you're going to do is you're going to put in a little bit of search criteria. You're going to put in the different areas that you're going to search for. So you'll put in the location that you're going to search in. So in my case, it'd be Auckland. And you could say in the Auckland area, and you're going to base finding a rental on, one, where you get your job offer, where you're going to be working. Are you working remotely? Do you have to go into the office? How far do you have to travel in? So that's the first thing you're going to look at, is if you're working in, for example, Auckland CBD, you're going to find a rental pretty much, if you have to go into CBD, close enough to travel into the office X amount of times per month. What your next influencing decider will be is cost, obviously, of the different areas, but also community, what sort of people you want to live around in the different areas, what sort of school you want your kids to go to. So those are going to be all the different decisions. I do and have done a separate podcast on how to secure your rental, how you make your decisions on a rental. So if you wanted to listen to that where I go more in depth, please go to my YouTube channel, go listen to my podcast on renting and securing a rental, and I'll break it down in a lot more detail. So I'm not going to do that today. But starting point when you're trying to do your budget is go to one of these real estate sites particularly I'm using this one, realestate.co.nz. I feel it's one of the most widely used ones here. You can do your nice search. You can say, okay, let's do some filters. Let's say that I want to search in a location. Let's start with Auckland. So I'm going to search just Auckland for now. I'm going to say a minimum price of, let's say we want a minimum price of $500 a week, maximum of, let's go with $950 per week. Amount of bedrooms, let's say we can't go any, let's say we need a minimum of 3 bedrooms and maximum of any amount, and let's do a search, just so it gives us a little bit of filtering on the search that we've got. So now what you can do is you can go and have a look here and see, okay, we'll get an idea. So we know this one is a 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, it's $700 per week. And you could go into it and start having a look, depending on whatever area you're trying to look at, okay? So let's use this one as an example. Go into it. Yeah, you can look at the pictures and go into a little bit more detail, and they'll do a whole write-up about it. But one of the things for budgeting that I think is important for you to note is generally what they will do is they will tell you the cost. So here they're telling you rent is $700 per week for the house, inclusive of power and water bills. Okay, so that's an important one to note. So if you had to go for this rental, you had the option of having your water and your electricity included. So that's a cool benefit to be able to have for this rental. But the point I was trying to make is go into the different rentals, look at what options you got. Also, another thing that's important is when you take on a rental, you will have to pay a bond or a deposit, okay? The deposits are, all the rentals I've been in, I'm in my 4th one now, have always been 4 weeks deposit up front. So whatever your weekly is, times it by 4, and that's what your your bond will be, your deposit will be, that you'll have to pay up front. And usually over and above the deposit or the bond that they ask for up front, they also usually ask for either a week or 2's rental up front. So this one, move-in cost, it says 1 week advance, so 1 week up front for the rent, and 4 weeks rent as a bond. Okay, so that gives you an example there. So it gives you a nice breakdown of what the costs are. What you'll also want to keep in mind, and why I'm sharing this is not only for the budgeting or what we're going to go through in this video today, but this is a tip as well, it affects your cash flow. If you move into a rental, say you pay the bond, they take that 4 weeks bond deposit, they put it into a non-interest bearing account, and they keep it aside for you. On exiting your rental, when you moving into your next rental, next home, whatever else, they will pay that bond back to you or that mortgage back to you, but it will depend on them doing an assessment of the home, making sure there's no damage, whatever else. But it takes time. So if you're moving into another rental and you have to pay that bond up front, you need the cash available to pay that bond, because you're not going to have this bond from the current house available straight away. They're first going to do the assessment, you're first going to move out, etc. First going to check that everything's okay, then they will pay it back to you. So just keep that in mind for the cash flow. Either have money put aside or have an overdraft or credit card or something just to pay cash flow wise for that 4 weeks bond. So keep that in mind as well. As well as remembering, you will also usually pay a week or 2 up front for the rental. Yeah, you'll get it back with your monthly expenses, because those first 2 weeks of being in that place or week in the place, you wouldn't have to pay the rent because you've already paid it up front. But just know that you would need a cash flow available to be able to do that. This is quite a nice one. It's not often that they do that where power and water is included, but that's quite cool. Okay, so that's why I was trying to share this site with you, because I think it's quite nice to be able to not only go onto Google Maps or whatever and start looking for homes while you're still in your home country before you get here to New Zealand, to see what's available so that you can get a place. And if you listen to my podcast, I talk about our journey, how we secured a rental, tips of securing a rental, what works, what doesn't. So really go listen to that. I'm not going to go into all that detail here. I'm more trying to keep this around budgeting and the amount of money. But a starting point on your rental line item to be able to work out how much you need to cater for per month, because I'm going through the monthly portion of the budgeting, is to go to a site like this and get a good understanding of what it's going to cost per week, but also some of the other costs, i.e. having the bond or paying up front, or like this one where the power and water is included, so that you can adjust your budget accordingly. So you'd go to this sort of site. Then let us go back to the budget. Okay, so if we go back to the budget, so that was around the rental. As I said, I budgeted $900 per week. I've inflated it slightly because I didn't want you to be caught off guard like we were for the 5-week months. So there are a couple of those. Next line item that I budgeted for was water. So you did see on that one rental I've just gone into now, water was included on that one. It's not always included in the rentals. The rentals I've been in hasn't been included. You don't pay for the rates and the taxes or anything like that. Your landlord is liable for those, which is great, but you will be most of the time liable for the amount of water that you use. For a family of four, only talking from Auckland, we budget about $90, $100 a month, and that works out well. And that's on the high end, and that's generally if the kids are having longer showers or maybe washing cars, spraying down the house or the driveway or whatever else. So you're using water quite a lot. Some people will use less, some people more. On average, I'd say if you budget about $90 for water, you should be good on your water usage. Next thing I think that you need to include in your budget straight off the bat when you're first here on one income is insurance. Insurance for your car and insurance for your household content. That was important for us. Some people may think differently and believe it's not important straight off the bat, that maybe they're less risk averse. I'm telling from my experience, get the insurance. We went with AA Insurance. I will give you links to a whole lot of other insurance companies like Tower Insurance, AA Insurance, whatever that you can approach and get pricing from and see how to get signed up. I went with AA Insurance. I did insure the car fully comprehensive, and I did household insurance. I think the value of the household insurance was like $90,000 or $100,000. So not a hell of a lot, but that's what we insured. And that together came to $150 a month. So that's what I put as insurance. Electricity, you saw on the one that I just showed you, electricity was included, which I think is actually quite a good deal. It doesn't happen often though, that your electricity and water is included. You usually have to pay for it separately. Family of four in Auckland, our north of CBD, we budget around about $300 a month. Now, some people can be more frugal and spend a little bit less. Some people will spend a little bit more. It does depend on what you do in your home. You may be running the tumble dryer a lot more often than a lot of other people. You have to here, bearing in that, well, not have to, but generally you will use the tumble dryer a hell of a lot more here. It does rain a lot more here, so you will use that, which ups your electricity. In winter months, it can get cold. A lot of places don't have fireplaces or gas, or so you'll be using electricity, which is your heat pump or your air conditioner for heat. So that can push up your electricity bills. So it does depend on your family and how much you spend. My opinion, $300 a month is a good average. So throughout summer, you might spend a little bit less. Winter, you might spend a little bit more. But if you average it out over the year, $300 a month is what you should pretty much cater for your electricity. Nice thing about electricity here that I found, I come from a country where we had a monopoly with one electricity provider. And they also had problems with it, let alone being a monopoly, and they could charge you what they wanted. They couldn't even keep the lights on. Okay, and I'm not here to slate South Africa and go down that rabbit hole. But what I loved about coming to New Zealand is there's competition here and there's options here. There are a lot of different companies that you could apply for electricity from. What it did mean or does mean is that there's a lot of different deals out there. So they will give you deals where they'll say certain times of the month, be it maybe it's weekends from 9 to 6, you won't pay for your electricity usage, or you might be able to apply once a month or once a quarter for a free day's electricity. You choose the day that you want, no billing for your electricity. Or there would be deals where you can get a TV included, or I don't know, they have so many different deals. So it was really competitive with your electricity, and it was easy to sign up with them, and it's really quick and easy. So I will give you under the links a whole lot of different electricity companies you can apply for. We were with Mercury at the moment, but there are plenty of other options out there, but I'll share that in the link as well. Next thing for us was internet. So it was important for us to get internet for a couple of reasons. We needed fiber to the home because, one, just from an entertainment perspective, we would stream, although New Zealand has New Zealand TV, which is free. They have 3Now, which is free, and you can watch it on your phones with apps and whatever else, but you can stream live TV, you can stream movies that they've got available or series that they've got available both on TVNZ, 3Now, and it is free, but you do need internet connectivity to do that. Okay, so that's why we opted for a 100 meg uncapped fiber to the home. Over and above that, we also needed it for, well, I worked from home a few days a week, so I needed to have internet to be able to work from home. And currently, now that my wife works, we both work from home, so we do need the internet at home for that. And over and above all of that, my son, who is now 13, also does a lot of online gaming and everything like that. So if he didn't have internet, it would be the end of his world. So we needed the internet. So for a number of reasons, we felt it was important to have internet at home for us. So we went with a 100 meg uncapped fiber to the home. Also, easy to get connected, easy to get installed, very quick, very reliable, very stable. We even had, I think in the last 2.5 years, we've had problems once with it, and we logged the call, and within, I think it was the same day, it was the power supply that blew on the router or something at the units, and they replaced it within the same day. So they're very, very, very good. Also, there's a lot of competition, so a lot of options out of there, different deals, bundles with electricity and internet. So many different options out here, which we weren't used to back home, which was nice. But get your internet up and running, and I would say about $110 per month for a fiber, uncapped, 100 meg, that's what you could budget for. Another one for us, but it is different and depending on where you stay, even in Auckland. Where we moved to in Auckland, we moved to an area which was predominantly quite new, and the municipality or the government hadn't got the waste services 100% up and running yet. They are currently right now, 2 days, 2.5, right now as I'm doing this video, busy getting that sorted out, where government will take over doing a lot of your refuse removal collections with the dustbin trucks and stuff. But when we first moved here 2.5 years ago, in the area that we are in, government did have trucks that would fetch your recyclable waste, but not your general waste and not your garden refuse waste. Okay, so we had to go to a private company for our garden refuse and a private company for our general waste. Okay, maybe I should take a step back and explain how waste works here. So in South Africa, they're not that big on recycling. Okay, so not too proud to say it, but it is what it is. You would pretty much have your wheelie bin, and you just have we call it the black bin, and you just put everything in the black bin, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's recyclable, not garden refuse, not, everything just goes in the bin and they take it away and it's their problem. Whereas here it's different, they've got the bins color coded. So first let's start off with what government and municipality does do, which is the recyclable bin, which is a yellow bin. That is collected where we are every second week, and it is for all your recyclable goods. So it's like your paper, your cardboard, your glass, your tin. And I'm not going to, this is not a video about what is and isn't recyclable, and that's a whole nother learning curve on its own. But just know you've got a yellow bin that is provided by the municipality that is for all your recyclable goods, and it goes out X amount of times per month. So you'll get used to your days and whatever, depending on where you stay. That is not what this $45 is for. What this $45 was for is where we are, government wasn't providing a general waste bin, which is usually red or orange. So that is for general waste. So it's non-recyclable stuff, or people that are lazy and don't recycle, put everything into that bin. Okay, so it's your general waste that goes in your red recycle bin. That is what we had to contact Econo Waste for, was to get a 220 or 225 litre general waste bin, so that they would collect that on a weekly basis for us for that $45 a month. What is happening right now is government is busy changing it over, where they will now have in our area dustbin and garbage trucks that will come and collect our general waste. And then that 45 will fall away. There will probably be a once-off that I need to pay to get a bin or get connected up with municipality or whatever, a once-off charge, but then I won't have to pay that 45 a month. But as it states now, I have to pay that 45 a month for general waste. Then what you also have to do, and I will talk through it later in this budget, is the once-off items per year, is you have to get a green waste bin. So keep this in mind. If you get into a rental where you have to mow your own lawn and look after your own gardens, not only are you going to have to consider the budget to buy general or basic garden tools like a lawnmower, etc., you are also going to need to get a green waste bin. So for your garden refuse to be taken away separately. It can't go in your general waste bin, can't go in your recyclable bin. You would need a green garden refuse bin. So for your offcuts for the grass or anything that you're cutting in the garden, you would put it into that, and it generally gets collected once a month. So that would be your green bin. And then the last bin that they have is an organic waste bin, which is a tiny little bin that they have for all your organic waste, like if you peel potatoes or fruit or whatever else, all your organic stuff goes in that, and that gets collected away. So waste is a whole different way of thinking here, but where we stay in the area when we had to cater for $45 a month, but that would fall away. Although you would still have once-off charges per year, like for your green bin, which is $100, I'll go through it later, per year. So just keep that in mind for your monthly expenses. $45, or just get to know your area and see if there's anything for waste that you need to cater for. Pardon, I am getting over a little bit of a cold, so that's why I cough every now and again. Sorry about that. Okay, so getting back to the monthly expenses. So waste was what we just finished up with. Car. The way we worked is I bought a car outright when we got here. Okay, well, I didn't buy it when we got here. I organized it when we were still back in South Africa. You can listen to one of my podcasts with my journey. I'll explain how we did that. It worked very well for us, where once we got into the hotel, the car was delivered to the hotel, so I had car straight away. But I didn't finance the car, so I wasn't paying a monthly fee, or what do you call it? I didn't have to pay for my car every single month on a loan, because we had bought it outright. So it does depend on your budget. It does depend on what works for you. I do know a lot of other families that have come across here, and what they've done is they've financed a car once they got here. So they do have an installment, a monthly installment for a car. It is possible. You can do that with just proving to them that you've got a job offer, as long as it's enough and they approve the loan, and whatever other information they ask for, like passports and proof of residence or whatever, they'll ask for it. You can get a loan. Okay. Generally, maybe the interest rate will be a little bit higher because you haven't got good or haven't had credit here in New Zealand, because you just landed here, but it is possible to buy a car on credit. Way we did it though, I did buy a car cash. Okay, so from our investments or savings or whatever that we cashed in, we bought a car outright. What it did mean is we didn't have to worry about a monthly installment for a car. That's why I put that at 0. Only had to worry about the fuel that we have to put in the car. So that's the next line item I'll talk through. Over and above the monthly cost of fuel to run the car, you also got to just bear in mind, think about what car you want. So what I mean by this is we got caught. I bought a diesel car when I first arrived here, not knowing, didn't do enough homework, that there is a tax that you pay for diesel vehicles to use the car. It's called RUC. So it is an additional tax that you pay over and above, and you buy kilometers worth of RUC for your car. So if your odometer is at 40,000 and you can buy up front, you say, I'm going to buy $2,000 worth, 2,000 kilometers worth of RUC. So it'll take me up to 42,000 on my odometer. You have to buy that additional RUC all the time to make sure you're always covered for that road user insurance or fee, that tax for a diesel vehicle. I also know they do it for some electric vehicles, whatever else. Petrol vehicles, RUC doesn't count for as it is today. But I do share a link to a government site where you can read up more about this and see depending on what vehicles you want to buy. My advice, buy a petrol vehicle. All you need to worry about then is the fuel that you put in the car. Obviously, if you've financed the car, you'd have to pay that. There's 2 other items you'd have to worry about. One being a WOF on every single vehicle that you've got. It's a warrant of fitness that you have to pay once a year. A warrant of fitness, you would only pay for used cars once a year. Well, not only used cars, but if you buy a used car, you'd have to do it yearly. If you buy a brand new car, they usually include a WOF that covers you for the first 3 or 5 years. So you wouldn't have to renew the WOF yearly for the brand new car in the first few years, only once it gets a little bit older. But if you buy a second-hand vehicle, which most of us do, is you would need to make sure that you put money aside for a WOF every single year. I'll go through those costs. And then also a license for your registration on your car once a year. You'd have to pay that as well. So I'll go through that a little bit later as well in the budget. But as a monthly running expense, if you're not financing your car, it's just your fuel. Fuel, what I've budgeted for is $75 a month. I started with $75 a month. This is based when we first got here, only having one car, my wife not working, and me using the bus to go into work 2-3 times a week. The other 2 days of the week, I worked from home. So this fuel cost of $75 a week was for my wife in the immediate area to take the kids, run them around and get to know the area, eventually also just drop them off at school, and then us to explore a little bit in the immediate area over the weekends, but it wasn't for me to drive into CBD when I was going into town. That is where I had the line item of $150 a month for bus. I used the bus to go into town those 2 to 3 times a week that I went into CBD. The bus probably took me about an hour and 10 minutes to get into CBD from where I am on the North Shore, and probably took me about an hour and 20, an hour and 30 minutes to get home in the evenings. And it costs your budget that you would want there for 2 to 3 times a week is $150. Now, I know a lot of Kiwis, they complain about the transport system here in New Zealand. From where I come from in South Africa, transport system was a shambles and not even an option.
in my opinion. So to come here and to be able to use the bus is amazing for me. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but they generally run on time. They have their own dedicated lanes, and I would rather sit there on the bus for an hour and 10 minutes going into the office, listening to my podcast, listening to my audiobooks, or whatever else, rather than sitting in the car in traffic with my blood pressure going through, because there is traffic here in Auckland. Maybe it's different in other parts of New Zealand that you land at. Maybe, I don't know, also maybe you stay closer to your offices. I know I got some guys that I work with down in New Plymouth. It's a smaller town, so CBD for them, they can probably get there within 15 minutes, and they say that's sitting in traffic. So it's different. It all depends on where you stay and where you end up. I can only talk from my experience in Auckland, and in Auckland, we decided to use the bus, which was an hour and a bit either way, going in and coming out. And we're only going 2 to 3, or I'd only going 2 to 3 times a week, $150 a month. The next big thing that you want to put into your budget is for a cell phone, okay? Now, this is a pro tip. This we learned the hard way. When we first landed here, we went into a dairy, or it's a little shop, to go and buy a SIM card. And what you could get back in South Africa was something called pay-as-you-go. So what you do is you buy data as you need it, okay? It worked out pretty cheap in South Africa. Not cheap here. We learned the hard way. We got that little SIM card, put it in one of our South African cell phones that we brought with us, and we would buy data as we needed it. It cost us a fortune. We were burning money in the first few days, okay? We learned it the hard way, because when you first land here, you're using your phone for GPS, because you don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going, so you're constantly on the GPS. You also don't know the shops, where to go. You don't know anything, so you're constantly doing research online and looking up stuff. So you're using data a hell of a lot on your phone in the beginning. You really, really are. So you use a lot of data, and doing it on the pay-as-you-go scheme here, on just buying as you use it, very expensive. I mean, $20, $30 would be used up in like a day or two, which was nuts. We were burning cash on that. All you have to do is go to one of the cell phone shops and sign up a contract with them. All they're going to ask for is they're going to ask for your proof of job offer, passports, and potentially proof of residence where you're staying. So it's really easy to sign up with them, and within an hour you can get onto a contract. We signed up a contract at $45 per cell phone. It's not including the phone. It is only the data, the text, and the actual phone minutes, okay? So that's all it's including, but it gives you plenty data to be able to use. It gives you plenty text that you can't use up, and plenty minutes to make phone calls locally and even overseas that we never used up, because we used everything on data anyway. We did calls on data like WhatsApp and stuff like that back home, and it gave us plenty to do that. But lesson learned, rather go sign up for a contract straight off the bat. Don't try to do this pay-as-you-go thing. Yeah, it cost us a fortune. What a mistake. So we rather signed up for the $45. I've got it as $95 here because I got 2 contracts. So I got one for my wife and one for me, $45 each. So that's what we signed up for. It doesn't include the phone, just reiterating that. We used the phones that we brought from South Africa, and eventually I even bought a refurbished phone. So I am not paying a phone off. You can go for options. They do offer that here. But again, it just depends on your budget. I was trying to keep the costs as low down as possible. So that's why I've got $95 in there for phones. The next one is food. This is the second highest or most expensive thing that you're going to pay for in your budget per month is food. So rent is almost half of what your salary will go towards, keeping a roof over your head. And then a good, healthy percentage is going to go towards food. Food is expensive here. The cost of living in New Zealand is high. It's not cheap, okay? I'm not trying to scare people off. I want people to come here. I'm more trying to have you be prepared and be well informed. Don't come with blinkers on when you get here. Know that the cost of living is high. It's not cheap. Rentals, housing, expensive. Food, expensive, okay? And it's also very seasonal, the food that you buy here. An avocado, what in season will be, I won't say cheap, but affordable. And then out of season is like astronomical, where you're paying like $10 for one avo, and when you convert it, you think, what? I would never eat avos, for example. So food can be expensive. That said, I budgeted on $475 a month for $475 a week for food here for a family of 4. That is high. But the reason it is high, or one of the reasons it's high for us, is I am celiac, so I cannot eat gluten. So buying gluten-free food is that little bit more expensive. So we had to cater a little bit more for that reason. And What I also did here is I inflated, and I'll explain how I've broken down the color coding on my template here, is I would take that 475 times it by 4 and a bit, because I'm catering for the 5-week month, and transfer that money to my wife every single month. She would then cater for making sure food and household stuff and everything was bought, but we budgeted a bit more than what she would actually use. So if she could save, she would be able to save that money and use it for other things. And I'll talk about some of the other hidden costs that come up that it helped us, her being able to save towards, but also gave her that freedom and a little bit of independence to have her own money, to be able to do her own thing, and also just to help be able to manage things. So that's one of the reasons our 475 is a little bit higher. You will talk to other families here, they'll watch this video and they'll say, oh no, Brett, you're totally wrong. We spent way less, or we spent way more. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is all from my own personal experience. I am telling you it's a little bit higher. You can probably do it a little bit cheaper. Other families have told me they can spend about $300 for a family of 4, going to Pack and Save and other places, and no luxuries. We did get a few luxuries included in that, so it does depend on your budget. It does depend. This isn't a line item you could potentially maybe save a little bit on. I would not go lower than $300 for a family of 4 per week. Okay, $300 is tight. Already this budget that I'm giving you is to survive, not thrive. Okay, the thriving part comes when you get 2 incomes, or the way you can up this amount of money substantially. What I've gone in on this budget is I've told you that you need to earn $124,000 as a minimum per year as a starting point to be able to make this work. So that's what I'm working through in this budget. So anyway, getting back to food, $475 per week. So if you look in total per month for a family of 4 in Auckland, in New Zealand, in May of 2025, I'm saying you need $723 out. Okay, that's what you need to take out. So that would mean you would need to earn that $124,000 per year, because you've got to remember 310 is going to go to your KiwiSaver, that's the 3%, and then you are going to have your tax, your PAYE, that you're going to have to pay of the 27, which is including your ACC. So if you look here in the breakdown, I'll move my face out the way. If you look down in the breakdown, your ACC is the 172. So that's how I got to the 728430. So that's your 728430. Okay, so my template calculates this all for you. You use that tool that I gave you online, and you can populate this according to whatever your job offers are, and then you can look at what the costs are, line items were. What I do is I will share links over here in this template for a whole lot of different things. So like I told you, I'm sharing the PAYE, but I will also share different food stores that you can go to. So like further down here, I talk about Woolworths, Pack and Save, New World. I talk about wonky boxes and farmers boxes, which is you can order vegetables that get delivered to your house. So separately, it's like going to it's the wonky box. It's actually quite cool. I'll digress a little. It's where certain vegetables that just didn't look good enough, or were a funky shaped carrot or whatever else, that didn't make the grade to go to the supermarkets and whatever else. So they'll give you wonky fruits and veg and whatever else that's available for the day, but you get good deals, and it's a good way to save money, for example. But I'll give you the links to all of these different stores. So when you're going through this budget, I do, and everything I'm talking through, over and above your notes that you're taking, you can refer back. If you download this template, we'll have the links to all the different places that you can go to. So when you're looking up food, if you wanted to get a better idea, go to one of those food stores like Pack and Save, or go to New World and do an online shop. It will take you a lot longer, especially because you won't know the brands and it's very difficult. But if you wanted to spend the time to really be that much more informed, go and build out a shopping list of what you would ideally, more than likely, shop for your family, to get an idea of what you would spend and what would cost. Also bearing in mind, your first initial shop is probably going to be a lot higher, because you're trying to kit out the home with not only the food and everything that you want, but also all your washing liquids and cleaning stuff and whatever else. You have to build that all up. You've built that up over years back home, and you've got to start again building all that up. So it is going to cost you over a period of time. So just keep that in mind as well. So that's how I got to the 7.2, and that's how I got to 124 as a minimum offer I believe that you need to take to be able to start off here in New Zealand for a family of 4, obviously talking from my perspective, my opinion, and from Auckland and my reference. And as I've told you, this is to survive, not thrive. The idea is to eventually have 2 incomes coming in, like we did with my wife working, so that we can then add on a whole lot of other items that I have missed out here that I don't believe you need straight off the bat. But you do need a lot of these, but you can wait, in my opinion, until you've got 2 incomes coming in. This is what I believe is your bare minimum that you need to have in. So that's why I believe that's the amount that you need to earn or have an offer straight off the bat to make this work from the beginning. With my template, over and above everything I've told you line item by line item and how I got to the costing and everything here, what it does is it'll take whatever you've got as income net, it'll deduct all those expenses over here and tell you if you've got any money left over. So left over after all these payments, you've got a little bit excess of $61.30. So it's not straight on, but it's not leaving you a big buffer, but there's a little bit extra here based on what I've added up. What I've also done over here with the color coding is I explained to you that I take all the food money, so that's the 2058 per month. I transferred that across to my wife, so she had her own bank account. One, as I told you, it gave her a bit of independence, but it also gave her the ability to help, also save for other things, whatever else. I gave her that money every month, and it meant I didn't have to worry about it. Over and above giving her independence and everything else, I transferred that to her every month. What I did with everything that's highlighted in purple, in your banking app, I banked with BNZ. I opened up a BNZ account when I was still back in South Africa, so that it was available by the time I landed here. Just had to go into the bank and activate. Again, on one of my podcasts, I talked to that in more detail. But once you've got your BNZ bank account, on the app, you can create something called sub-accounts. So I created a sub-account for all the different things, i.e., if you give this example and you look here at the cell phones, for example, there's going to be a debit order from the cell phone company every single month. I created a sub-account where it would, when my money goes in and I get paid at the end of the month, the 7,223, the 7,223 went into my main account, it would automatically transfer that $95 into the sub-account that I called the cell phone account. That sub-account has your account number with a suffix at the end with a slightly different number for that sub-account. You give that account to the cell phone company so that the debit order will automatically go off that sub-account. So what happens is your main account gets your money in, and then all your breakdown in purple goes to all the different sub-accounts, and that goes off debit orders everywhere. It was just my way of trying to automate it and keep it simple. So I knew that everything was getting paid. So that's what I did with the sub-accounts. Then what I did here with the yellow is what would remain in my main account, and then that is just telling you in green what is the excess that you had left. So that's what the color coding means on this template. Use it, don't use it, it's just what worked for me. I'm just sharing what worked for us. Okay, so that's monthly is what you need to get through. Let me just add on a little bit about some of those surprises and ad hoc expenses. So I told you with a car, you would need to think about car service. We bought a little a Mazda when we first got here. That Mazda, we were lucky, it was only about 4 years old, but it did need to be serviced every year, although it was a diesel, which was, oh my goodness, bad move, buy petrol, in my opinion. Costs us about $300 for a basic service, oil change, etc. per year, so just keep that in mind. A WOF is something that you'll need for every vehicle, be it new or old, used, whatever. It's a warrant of fitness that you would have to pay for per year. That's about $120 per year. I have left it out here. You will also need a license and registration done per year, which is also about $130 a year. My car is just up for license renewal this year now, and it's $135. My wife's is also $135 for the license and registration. So I'll add that into this template before I share it with this video. And then the other thing is, if you buy a diesel car or certain electric cars, you are going to have a RUC tax that you're going to have to pay, road user tax that you'll have to pay. Budget about $400 a month for that if you have got a diesel vehicle or anything as well. So just keep that in mind, that you'd have to budget, $400 per year. These are the once-off costs that you'd have to pay per year. So just keep that in mind, okay? Again, it depends on how far you travel. So go read on that website. If you're traveling around a lot more with your car, driving into work and whatever else, I was not. So it is lower. I was only spending like $400 a year. Whereas if you're traveling a lot more, you are going to need to pay a little bit more. So go to that link, go to that public transport website that I've included here to read up on it to get a little bit more information. There can be other things. We also had to apply for our residency. Yes, we were lucky we were on the green list, so we could apply straight away in our first year, but it meant money that we had to put aside. And this is always changing with government, so you'd have to, and I'm not an immigration agent, I'm not talking at those fees, but think about fees like that you'd have to have money put aside for. English test that you'll have to potentially do for your residency, etc., or different visas and stuff when you're here on shore. So just think about all those different things that you're going to have as once-offs. Keep that, added that into your budget as your once-offs. Also remember, depending on when you arrive, there's different things that will happen with your family. Like with us, Christmas and Easter is an important thing for us with our family and our kids. So we had to budget money for that as well. Maybe you could, it's a luxury, we could sit here and debate it, but we made sure that there was money for the kids still to get their Christmas presents, to make sure that we still had an Easter with Easter egg hunts and whatever else that was important to us. Kids' birthdays, depending on when you're arriving, make sure that you've got some money put aside for that. And then the one I also talked about was the green waste bin, which will pay about $100 a year. So this is just an example of some of the once-offs that we've seen come up that we had to put some money aside for, over and above what you need in the monthly budget. Okay, so that is if you're getting paid monthly, a monthly budget, and what I feel as an initial amount of money, that $124,000 that you would need per year. So that's the first section that I wanted to go through. So what I will jump into next is I'm going to go through the next tab, which is the fortnightly budget, which is if you're getting paid every 2 weeks, and just show you the pros and cons, still as just one income earner, still just as in a beginning, but with an example if you were getting paid every 2 weeks. So if you get that job offer and it's not paying you monthly like this example I've gone through, and it's paying you fortnightly, just some of the lessons learned that I've learned since being having a job here that pays monthly versus a job here that pays fortnightly, and just how to address that budget a little differently. Not huge, but just some tips and tricks, so we'll jump into that next. But I think I've been talking for quite a bit now, so I think let's have a quick break, go get that cup of coffee. I know it's figures and a lot of information, so get that cup of coffee before we jump into the next section, which will be all around getting paid fortnightly on one income. Cheers. Welcome back. Hope you got your cup of coffee. Hope you got some caffeine in you, so we can get into the second section, which is going to be now talking about a budget, still only one income, but it is going to be getting paid fortnightly. I'll run through it line item by line item, keeping in mind it's going to be the exact same line items that I spoke about, same budgetary amounts that I spoke about overall per month, but you break them up into fortnights, so every 2 weeks. So I'll break it down a little bit for you and I'll run through it. So let's move this over here so you don't have to see me there, and I'll move this out the way so it's over here. Cool. Okay, so if you look, and this will be on the template that you can download, okay, that I will share on the video. So if we go into the second portion on the fortnightly with one income, again, with the rental, it's still $900. As I said to you, it's $900 per week. Only difference now is when they pay you every 2 weeks, now you don't have to worry about those 5-week months, because you're going to get an income every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks. Okay, so what will happen now is you can budget on those things that are weekly within that 2-week payment, and things that are monthly, just make sure, and that's how you split it down into what you, depending on the date, what comes in the first 2 weeks of the month or the first half of the month, what comes in the second half of the month. So that's really what you're going to try to do a little bit differently when you've got a fortnightly income coming in. So the pros there, which I like, currently I get paid fortnightly, is that I don't have to worry about those 5-week months anymore. But one thing that you've got to just remember is just with those sub accounts now, with I've told you with dates of what moves across into the sub accounts that comes off and your debit order runs. Now you just got to keep in mind your debit order runs, because if you've still got some of your debit orders on a monthly run, but you're getting paid every 2 weeks, and you take half of it budgeted for half that monthly fee in the first 2 weeks, and the other half comes in the second payment, in the second fortnightly payment, you then need them both to be in that sub account to get paid by the end of the month. You'll see what I mean in a little bit more detail when I go through it. So that's a bit of the downside, is just a little bit of now your debit orders. If you can change your debit orders to be weekly or fortnightly, this will be a lot better. So that's something you could potentially try to do. I haven't, because I had some of them still as monthly, because I was getting paid monthly. Now that I'm getting paid fortnightly, I haven't changed those. So it just took a bit of jigging on my automations with my sub accounts. So that's something you got to do. But maybe you don't even do the automation, whatever else, you just pay. Then you just got to make sure and do it manually every month or every 2 weeks. That's fine too. It's just important to have a budget to go against and check. So if we look here, I first said the rental, it'll be the $900 a week, so that still just goes off every week. Now all you've got to do is you just got to go, well, in 2 weeks it'll be double that, so it's 1,800, 1,800, simple enough, okay? Everything else I told you about, the rentals and the bonds and saving, still apply. Exactly the same, okay? It's just obviously now you're getting paid fortnightly. Maybe another thing to show you before I go through the line items is you want to have a look over here. So on that PAYE tool that I was showing you, you will have the exact same tool. You put in the KiwiSaver amount exactly the same, but now all you're going to do is you're going to work off the fortnightly amount, for example. Obviously, you could do another template if you wanted, if you get paid weekly, okay? So it's all the same, but the tool that I showed you and I'm sharing the link with, that's what's so key. Because now what you could fill in is you can say, well, the income comes in fortnightly, that's the 4769. What are the deductions, the KiwiSaver, ACC, whatever? What am I getting out every 2 weeks? So I'd be getting out 3,361 every 2 weeks versus a monthly of 7,200. You will see this is different, okay? Because you've got to remember there's 52 weeks in a year and there are 12 months in a year, okay? So there should actually be 13 months if you go work it out on four weeks in a month, but that's not how the calendar works, okay? So that's why you'll see this works out a little bit more and this works out a little bit less, but actually in the bigger scheme of things, when you work it out in weeks in the year, it balances each other out. It's more just getting used to getting a payment every 2 weeks, coming into your main account, getting paid every 2 weeks, and then paying your bills accordingly and budgeting accordingly. So that's what I'm trying to show you here more than anything else. Okay, so that works out exactly the same. But let's go back to the budget and have a look on the line items. So $900 a week for your rental. Your insurance, what you'll do here, it's still just the car insurance that I do, but now you've got to note the date of when it's coming off, okay? If you've signed up with the insurance and you can get it to come off fortnightly, cool, do that with them. Then you don't have to worry about the date because there'll be 2 separate payments that come off a month, one on the first portion of your fortnight within those first 2 weeks and one in the second 2 weeks. So you could do it with that. I don't. It comes off on the first. So what I got to do is I got to make sure, okay, there's money in that sub account, meaning the full 140 every first of the month. Okay, so it comes off to the first of the month. So I needed to remember that. Water, you can break it down into 2 because now your budget, again, create a sub account because you'll probably only have to pay the water once a month to your landlord because it's monthly. So what you'll do then is just put 45 every 2 weeks so that in your sub account you've got the $90 available to pay them monthly. Electricity, again, also just break it into 2, 150. Again, it depends. If you can get it to come off fortnightly, which you could speak to the electricity company, some of them do that, or if it's monthly, just make a note in this column of when it's coming off so you know when the money needs to be fully available, the full amount is available to be on debit or to be paid. Okay, so that's what's important here. Again, dustbins, 2020. Sometimes if you're paying things fortnightly, it can work out a little bit cheaper. So that's why you'll see this is 2020 and it was 45 in the monthly. So that's also just something to note. It's cheaper, but it's not because there's more weeks, the 52 weeks in the year. Okay. Then you've got your internet. So it's still exactly same internet, but if you look here, it's 50-50 instead of the 110 because you can get it a little bit cheaper because you're paying fortnightly now instead of the monthly. But if you're paying it monthly, it's still the same amount. You just got to split it, and then you got to put in the relevant date. Cell phones, same idea. You could pay it. Depending if you're paying it monthly or if you're splitting it. So again, you just got to see. Car payment. I told you we didn't buy a car on lease or on hire purchase. So we didn't take a loan out for a car. So we bought it outright. So that's why there's no installment for a car here. Petrol, $300 per month. So it's $150 and $150. So every 2 weeks, you'd fill up with a tank of gas. So I know that my car now, I think takes over 60 liters or something like that. It cost me about $160 odd to fill the current car that I got. This is based on us first landing and having a much smaller car. My wife's car is smaller. I think she's got like a 50 liter tank or whatever else. So $150 is more than enough to fill her tank. And depending on the amount of travel, 2 tanks a month. But it depends on the amount of travel. And then again, buses going into town, saying 2 to 3 times a week, 75 every 2 weeks. Again, it is flexible. It does depend on how often you travel in with buses or how much travel you do around, how fuel efficient your car is, etc. So it all does. But I'm trying to give you an average so that you can see what would work. Food, still the $475, just dividing it into the 2. And that's how I came to pretty much the 2 different fortnightly amounts of the $350. $3,350. Did I say 350? Yeah, dyslexia, eh? 3,350 per fortnight, which leaves you a little bit in excess. Same idea with the color coding. So what would be put into the sub accounts, what would be given to my wife, what would need to be left in the main account, and what you got left over. So you can see it's slightly different working it out, but it is worth your while doing a budget if it's fortnightly payments that you're getting. Same idea of what you would need to cater for ad hoc or once a year fees that will come through. I will add in that registration for your car as well, your car registration once a year, which is about 135. So I'll add that in. So that's really the major difference there on the fortnightly. So not too much of a bigger difference there. It's just more trying to get used to that you're going to get paid every 2 weeks. You don't have to worry about those 5-week months in the year, which is nice, but you have to keep tabs on the dates of when debit orders are going to come off in line with when you're getting paid every 2 weeks. So those sub accounts can help on your bank accounts. You can move the money around and have it individualized and ready for whatever payments are going to be coming off. So that can still help. Even if you don't have it as a debit order automatically coming off those sub accounts, at least it's put into that account. So the money is aside so that you can make sure it's available when you need to make the payment for them, be it once a month. Okay, so just to recap, is I first said my opinion and in my experience, I think you need $124,000 a year as a minimum offer to consider moving your family of 4 here and starting off. It is not to thrive, it is to survive. And be it monthly or be it fortnightly, that's how I break down the budget. And these are the tools that I've used and all the different links that I will share in this template, but that I've spoken through in this video thus far, that help me get to my feeling of what you need as a bare minimum to start off with as a family of 4. Now the big thing is, whether you're getting paid monthly or fortnightly or weekly or whatever else, this was all just based on one income coming in. The goal would hopefully be to get that second income or second, I don't know, to increase your income somehow, but you've got to get more than the 124 to be able to start thriving, to start adding on the other additions that I'm going to talk through now, which is what I'm going to talk through as additionals once my wife started working. So let me move my mug up here. I'm only going to talk through a monthly. I'm not going to talk through a fortnightly as well, but it's the same concept. It just means now you've got to break it down into 2 like I did over here, fortnightly. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Just going to go through the monthly. But this is 2 incomes coming in. It is still this example of me still earning the 124,000 a year. Same tool to break it down, but now with this example, I'm saying your second income, so your partner, your wife, whoever else, different income that you're getting in, is another 90,000 that you will start bringing in. So I'm saying this is a bare minimum to really start thriving. You want your 124 as your beginning, your starting point, as it is today, but then you would want to look at least, I think, well, not at least, but really look towards getting at least another 90,000 in. I try to base this on an example that I think is realistic. I believe it's realistic, okay? Most specialized skills that are coming into the country and people that are accepted on the green list are earning that 110 minimum to at least 120 a year. Or at least they're doing the 124 between 2 salaries. But then my caveat is be careful, because if it's 2 salaries that are getting that 124, you're going to struggle to now start getting to that thrive. So you're going to have to work out how much of what thrive means to you. And I'll go through the line items. I'm sharing with you what thrive means to me and my family and my plan, and what we needed as a second income to start playing catch up with regards to now starting life over at 40. And what I mean by catch up is we need to start saving to be able to get a deposit for a house. We need to start putting more money aside for our investments, for our retirement and old age. And we need to do that at a rate of knots and hurrying up, because we've only got a good 20 years left before we're at that stage. So we've got 20 years left earning income to not only put money aside to live off of when we're retired and not be a burden on our children, but we also got 20 years left to pay off a property, a home of our own. Okay, and I know 20 years can sometimes sound like a lot of time, but I promise you, and it goes quick. And I know I'm preaching to the converted to some of you out there. It's just, that was my thinking. That's why I was saying, okay, we need that second income, and that's why I'm working with this 90,000. And even with these figures of 124 and 90,000, and I'm not a financial advisor, if you start really digging into not only having to save for a home, but you also want to invest and put enough aside for you to live off of as a couple when you're older, at the age of 65, that's not even enough. You even need more than that. So you would still need to look at potential side hustles, extra income coming in. So don't fool yourself. Depending on what you're looking at, what your goals are, with what mine are, I know I need even more than this to be able to not only buy us a home so we plant roots in this country, which is a goal of ours, but also to be able to invest enough so that we would have enough sitting in investments to live off of as a couple, my wife and I, so we're not a burden on our children in 20 years' time. We need more. We need to earn more than this, both of us. Okay, but I was trying to give you an example of what I feel is the bare minimum to come across. So I think the bare minimum to even make a start of it and to make this work for you, you need that 124,000 for a family of 4. But that cannot be your end goal. You cannot. It's going to be so hard to really thrive off of that 124. You need more than that. So in this example, I'm saying the second income is going to be 90,000, and then these are the things I believe you should add on and how you should start saving towards those goals, like I'm talking about buying a house, retirement, etc. Okay, and even then, you would still need to see a financial advisor to put a proper plan together on seeing how you're going to slice and dice your budget and how you're going to potentially even make even more sideline hustles and income to be able to reach those goals. So I'm not trying to scare anyone off. I'm not trying to scare you. Please, that's not the. It's more just to be well informed and really go into this with your eyes wide open, not shut. Okay, this is not going to be easy. Don't fool yourself. This is tough, but it can be done. I think that's what's important. It can be done. If you work hard, you have a plan, that's what you've got to start with. If you don't even have a starting point in a budget, you don't even know what you're working towards. So you've got to have that end goal first and work back from there and actually have a plan of having any hope of actually making this work. So that's what I'm trying to empower you with. Okay, so enough of me on my soapbox. Let's get back to the budget. So if we have a look here, and maybe I can make it just a little bit bigger. There we go. So if we look here under the budget, so we would still have right up at the top, let's go to the top, a little bit of a different order now. You still have your insurance, okay, for your car and your household, because you will still have the household contents. But what I've done is I've increased the insurance here now. You'll see it's gone up to $270 a month. Reason being, we've now got 2 cars, not one, that we need to insure, because we've now got into a situation where we've not only got the first car, we've got my wife a car. So we've got 2 cars now. Household stays the same. So I would budget, if you've got 2 cars that you need to insure, and you've got household insurance, it's about $270. As I told you, the household insurance we got is about 90, 100,000 worth of content. And the cars, again, that is going to depend on the value of your car, how much that insurance is going to be. So again, what you'll need to do is go onto, I do share a site, and it is in one of the links, but let me bring it up and show you. So I was talking about the retail back. If you go to autotrader.co.nz, this can give you a good idea of what cars cost. So you'll know what the cars cost here. Then what you can do is, if depending on what your budget is and what sort of car you would do, you can even on some of these, let me see, not all of them, but they work it out for you. So let's just take this Toyota or whatever it is, at the moment, to try to give you an example. You can go here and you can even work out what your monthly or fortnightly or whatever payments would be. Okay, this one is not working it out. It's one of them that'll do it. So you can put in what the vehicle cost is, whether you got trade-in or deposit over what term, whether it's going to be a fortnightly payment or monthly payment. But there's other calculators that I shared the links for. I thought this one would give it, but it's typical. It's one of the ones I've clicked on that doesn't have it, but there are some of the others that do. Let me try a different one. See that I'm not talking nonsense. Let me just show you. Okay, so what we do is we go further down. No, it's not one of these. Okay, I will share the link in the template. But what you can do is, just like I've got that PAYE calculator, you've got a calculator that you can click on to go and calculate what the finance monthly fee would be, depending on which car you want to buy. But this is where you would use this link for AutoTrader, for example. Look at the type of car, the year, whatever you would be keen on getting based on some of the other information I've given you, and then you can use that calculator to put in and say, okay, for that amount of money with either deposit, no deposit, over whatever term you think you could get, it would even work out the interest more or less, interest rate, err on the side of it a bit higher, especially if you're a just arrived in New Zealand, because they're probably not going to give you the best rate ever, but it'll give you an idea of what it would cost you for that car, be it you paying fortnightly or be it you paying monthly or whatever else. I will also share in the links, for example, this is another company here. It's a family that's immigrated from Australia. They have started a finance house. So they do financing, specializing in immigrants that are moving over to New Zealand, for example. So they specialize in giving loans, not only loans for cars, but some private loans and everything else. So vehicle loans, immigration finance, business loans, personal loans. They do specialize in that, and they help you get your loans and everything as well. It's not just this company, there's others that do the same. I will also share the links. There's other financial advisors. This is another guy from South Africa that started up his own company with his son. They give financial advice. They're accredited. He was a financial advisor in South Africa. But I'm not punting these guys. I'm just telling you there are options here so that you can get finance. You can get guidance and whatever else over and above what I'm trying to share with you now. And I'm not a financial advisor. Just trying to show you. So getting back to the budget, if you had to look at it, go to Auto Trader, look at the type of car. You can get the idea of what cars would cost depending on what you're trying to buy, in the year, models, etc. I'm not trying to dictate to you what car you should or shouldn't buy, but you can get the idea of the cost here. Then what you can do is use the calculator to work out what the either monthly or fortnightly cost will be, and you can work that out for the next line item, which would be the monthly amount that you pay for a car. In this example that I've put together here, over and above the insurance, what I've also done is the car payment. I've based this on a car of around about $50,000. So that's what the car would cost. It's an SUV, a new Kia. It'll cost you around about $600 a month. Okay, that's what it is today. That's what it'll more or less cost. But again, use calculators, see what you can get to. So it'll give you an idea there. So I've put in that. Bearing in mind, I've said that the first car we had, we bought outright. So there's no monthly or installment we need to pay on that car. But we bought a second car. So this is the second car for $50K that we bought, or $50,000. And that's what it will more or less cost you in this budget. Okay. Then what you would want to also potentially start looking at is like Google Play or YouTube or Spotify. Because now you've got a little bit of extra in your budget. So you want to get some of those luxuries. So for our family, it's nice to be able to listen to music. And a family plan so that my son listens to me, my wife, I driving the cars, whatever else, me at the gym, going for walks, you can listen to music. Then also over and above those free TV streaming apps from New Zealand, the TV NZ and the 3Now, which are free that you can stream from. You can obviously now go look at Netflix or look at Disney or Amazon Prime or whatever works for you, okay? So you can work at those, but what I worked off here was about $26 a month for each of those. So you've got some sort of social music platform that you're using, more or less $25, and some sort of entertainment like a Netflix or Disney or something like that for $26. You would still have your internet that you would need. I've put in here the 100 meg uncapped. Then you would need your cell phones, still going to need your 2 phones, one for you, one for your wife or partner. Bearing in mind, maybe you've got to get for your kids, whatever. This is just an example. So I'm trying to give you an idea of what it would cost. Same idea applies with what I did in detail when I went through the monthly or I went through the fortnightly with each of these line items. Okay. Now what you wanted to potentially start looking into is now you want to start putting money aside for endowment policies or investments, savings. This is where you would probably want to talk to a financial advisor unless you are comfortable doing this yourself. You can look at different organizations that can do it. Depends which way you want to do it with advisors. You can go and look at companies directly like Milford, which does KiwiSavers, and they do other investment portfolios. So I will share their link as well, for example. You can go read up about them and you can do the investments yourself directly with them if you're comfortable to do so. Or, like I said, I will share one of the links for one of the financial advisors, but there are many others that you can go to. Maybe I'll share Haven as well. It's another brokerage that does financial advice. You can look, but you've got to see and start working towards putting money aside. So that's where that $1,000 is coming in. Now is when you'd also want to potentially think about some additional medical insurance. So I have given and done a podcast on the healthcare system here in New Zealand. All the pros, the cons, how it's worked for us, what hasn't worked, some of the things that have caught us off guard, that are lessons learned, etc. Also bearing in mind, my history is I did have cancer in 2019. So I have come across, yes, cured of cancer, but I was still in my surveillance stage of my cancer. So I still had to go for regular checkups. I had to go to an oncologist. I had to go for blood tests. I had to go for MRI scans, etc. I have had some issues where I've still had to go to a specialist for things. We've had so I've got to use the medical healthcare system here. Now, my pre-existing cancer and everything like that, I had to do that via the public sector, via public healthcare. So I've got a good experience of how that worked and the process. Hence, I share it on my podcast, as well as what it's like to do healthcare with private insurance, because we've also now got private insurance, so stuff that was covered under private insurance, which is Southern Cross, and I talk through that in my podcast. So if you want to get a little bit more insight into that, go listen to my podcast around the healthcare system in New Zealand. But this is where you would want to think about getting some sort of private health insurance. We've gone with Southern Cross. It is costing us around about $720 a month. Again, that's for a family of 4, but it does depend on what plan you want to go on. I will share the links to Southern Cross and some other private medical schemes that are available here in New Zealand. But again, with your financial advisor that's talking to you about your endowments and your investments, they generally also are able to help you with your medical insurance. I will share links in this template under the links for some potential advisors, financial advisors you can go to that could help you with this as well. But as a rule of thumb, for a family of 4 on a pretty decent plan, you would need about $720 a month for the medical. Bank charges, like I explained previously, banks don't seem to charge a monthly fee or admin fee or anything like that. Maybe an upfront fee on connecting and whatever, but then after that, it's only on actual usage, on what you're actually doing, that there's a fee associated with it. There isn't a set fee that comes off your account, so you don't need to budget for that. Well, that's been with the banks I've banked with. There's 3 New Zealand banks that I've banked with. There's BNZ that I currently bank with, TSB that I currently bank with, and ASB that I currently bank with. So I've got bank accounts with all 3 of those banks today, and I don't get charged a monthly fee from any of them. Maybe just a side note to note is with BNZ, I am able to send money home back to South Africa on a regular basis, and it doesn't cost me anything. So I know there's a lot of other applications that you can use, like Wise, a lot of others that people talk about, but just as a side note, hey, I use BNZ, my wife uses it, doesn't charge us anything, and we send money home regularly to South Africa. I can only talk about South Africa because that's where I send money home to, as a side note. So getting back to the budget, bank charges. Your rent is still there, just $900. Because I'm doing a monthly budget, I'm reminding you just to remember about the 5-week months, so don't be caught off guard. So make sure that you cater your budget accordingly. Unless you're doing a fortnightly, then it's a different scenario, but don't be caught off by that. Okay, so that's your rent of $900. Your water, still keeping your water in there. Like you saw, you can get lucky. Some of the rentals will include water, but it's not the norm from what I've experienced. You would have to pay for your water. Same for your electricity that you would have to pay. Now is when you're going to start looking for some money that you'll budget aside for school fees. When I say school fees, if your child does go to a public school, and the public schools are not bad here, okay? We can have a whole debate on what's good, bad, different education system, and that's not what this video is going to be about. I'm basing this on if your child goes to a public school, not a semi-private or private school, there are going to be some fees. So you need to budget to put some money aside. When I say some fees, your child might start the curriculum, and there might be something, so they do a cooking class. There is going to be fees that you will need to pay for them to have the food and everything else that they make available for them to do that cooking class in that term. So there will be some fees for that. Your child could do some sort of technology class or something like that, and maybe they do some sort of outing to some sort of museum or whatever. There will be fees for that. So there are different hidden fees when you go to a public school. Okay, it's not huge, but there are some fees, and I've said if you can put aside $60 a month, you should, for 2 children, you should be able to cater for that. That is not counting the once-off fee of putting money to a donation, because the donation is not compulsory. It's if it's a donation at public schools. So I'm not including that you're doing the donation. That would be a once-off if you had extra money and then you wanted to do that. But you do need to put some money aside for courses and other content that you'd have to pay for your kid. Also bearing in mind you will need some money up front. So I've put $1,030 up front because you need to buy school clothes, or uniforms or whatever else, there's school bags, lunch tins, all that kind of stuff that you need to build out for the kids. So there will be a little bit of an outlay in the beginning. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your budget for schools with your kids. You will now need to start buying clothes for your children and yourselves. Put in about $100 a month there. Try not to go, in my opinion, starting accounts and credits and everything like that. Okay, get yourself good, settled, and whatever else before you consider that. But I'm not a financial advisor, so I won't tell you what to do. But my opinion, if you can rather keep with cash for now, that'll be safer. That's where I was talking about that DTI, your debt to income ratio. As long as it's staying below 20%, then you're good. When you start finding that your debt is going over that 20% compared to your income, that's when a little red flag should be going off and you're going, well, I'm leaning towards the wrong end here. Dustbins and waste, because I still got it in here for the $45. Again, it does depend on your area, and just like I said here, the council is about to, or the municipality or public sector is about to get rubbish collection and everything done here, so that would fall away. So it's probably not a line item you'd need to worry about, but just check in your area that there's no issues around waste collection. Then you would also want to start saving towards buying a house. So a lot of people, a big thing for them is to be able to buy a home, to be able to plant roots. Big thing here with getting a bond or a mortgage is you need to have a deposit. Even as a first-time home owner, they generally will drop the amount or the percentage deposit you have to have available. So for example, if you're a first home buyer, I have heard of some banks that will drop as low as 10% deposit for buying a first time home. Generally, they prefer higher than that, so closer to the 20% mark is what you kind of hear over here. But that's a lot of money, considering houses are very expensive here. If you go onto that same real estate site that I gave you for renting, but now you change it to buying, and you go look at what the house that you're renting would cost, you can look at 3 or 4 bedroom homes costing over $1 million. Okay, so anywhere from $800,000 right up to, I don't know, $1.7 million, which is a hell of a lot of money. And I'm not talking mansions here or anything like that. Nice homes, but they're expensive. Okay, so to get a 10 or 20% deposit down, you're talking up to $300,000, which is a lot of money to get a deposit with. So if you are planning on buying, you definitely want to start saving towards getting that deposit in place. On that, financial advisor would give you better advice, but what you can do, that Kiwi Saver that I was talking about, that is for your retirement, that you contribute towards every month or every fortnight, every paycheck, that 3% that goes towards it, and your company can contribute. As a first-time home buyer, you can draw on your Kiwi Saver towards your deposit once for the first time that you buy a home. So you can do that. So a lot of finance houses, when you are ready to buy and you've got a bit of a deposit, you can also count your Kiwi Saver money. But just do it with a proper plan and with financial advice, because if you're putting on your Kiwi Saver to put it as a deposit to buy a home, that does mean you're still not ready for your retirement. You've got to still have a nest egg to be able to live off of once you're at retirement age. So do that investigation with a proper financial advisor, or if you're able to do it yourself, just keep that in mind. But the point I'm trying to drive home here is you can use that Kiwi Saver towards your deposit of the first-time buyer, as a first-time buyer for a first-time home. So just keep that in the back of your mind as well. But you would still need even more than that, so you need to start putting money aside towards that. Petrol and fuel, I have upped this. The reason I've upped this, it's still $75 per week per car, but per car, because now you've got 2 cars, remember? So you're gonna need a little bit more fuel, okay? So just bear that in mind. So you're gonna double that up. Dinner and going out. So now you're going to start wanting to go out. I did mention to you that dinner and fast food and everything like that is a hell of a expensive. It's not cheap here. Back in South Africa, we got used to being able to probably do takeout once a week, maybe twice a week. I know, bow my head in shame, but we could get takeout pretty regular, and it was a norm. It wasn't like a real major treat. Whereas here, takeout or going out for dinner is definitely a treat for the family. Well, in my opinion, it is, because it's damn expensive. It's not cheap. So putting that $1,000, it might sound like a lot, but if you do want to start treating your family to going out for dinners or buying takeouts or going and starting to do things in the area, you do need a bit of money put aside for that, and it can add up quite quickly. Food, still keeping your food at $4.75 a week, so I've still kept that in place. Gym works for me. It's a big thing for me to be able to just keep sane. Besides the health benefits, I also told you that I put my whole plan together, my goals of what I'm trying to achieve in my different areas of my life. So one of the areas of your life is health, and maybe because I've had cancer in 2019, a big thing for me is trying to focus on my health. So part of that is going to gym and making sure that I'm healthy, making sure I can be here for my kids and my wife, and that I don't get into that situation where I potentially have cancer or anything else. Again, not that you can control of that. That's a different story on its own, but I'm trying to stay healthy. But it's also for my mental well-being. It really, really helps me with my mental well-being. We could really jump into it and start talking about all the different chemicals that the brain releases when you go into gym and how that actually helps you, and we could get into all of that. But I believe it's important to get moving, to actually get out there. Over and above that, enrolling in gyms and other activities out there, be it a cycling club or a rugby club, soccer club, cricket, whatever, it's a good way for you to start meeting people. A lot of people have generally come to this side of the world. You're starting over all over again. You don't have your support structure. You don't have your extended family. You don't have friends that you've had your whole life here. So it's you and your little family, you and your wife, and that's it. And that's all you know, and that's all that you can tag team with, and that's all that's here to support you and help you is one another. So you eventually want to get and put yourself out there to start to get to know people, and that's what gym is doing for me. For you, it could be so many different other things. Maybe it's an art class. Maybe it is, I don't know what it is, but you'll find something. So you want to put a bit of money aside to start doing that. But it's so much more than just the health. It's so much more than just physically getting out there. It's also for your mental well-being and meeting people, which is so, so important. I know I went to the barber earlier this morning, and the barber was telling me, and he's an immigrant, and I know we're talking about so many things, and he brought up the topic that New Zealand actually has one of the highest suicide rates in the whole world, which is so sad. But it just showed you how important mental health is. And considering you're putting so much stress on yourself, moving to the other end of the world, starting all over again, and all that stress that goes with it, especially if you're supporting children and everything like that, you need something like a gym, physical, getting out there, building a support structure to help you through this. So it's important to put some money aside for that. Kids and pocket money. For us and the way we run, and as a family, it's important for us to put money aside for our kids for pocket money. So that they can work towards doing chores, whatever else, to earn money and start getting the value of money. I didn't talk about it here, but there is a different account. It's called Square One, which is it's like a bank that I've opened up with a card and everything for my son, but it's an app that is on your phone that I transfer money into every month, and he actually has a proper bank card and everything, and he can use it. But this app, Square One, works in such a way that I can tell him if he does X, Y, and Z, he will be able to get X amount of money. So he goes and does those certain things for me, and then I can release $10, release $10, release $10. It's also a way that he can save, because they've got like a little savings account linked to it. And with his card, it's a proper debit card, so he can even go and buy and tap and purchase things himself. So it starts getting him and introducing him to money. So that's, again, just a bit of a side note. Square One, it is something I use, but the idea here is budget some money for your kids, for pocket money. Travel-wise, I'd still be using the buses. So over and above the 2 cars, I'm basing it, even with that amount of fuel, is that I would still now drive to the nearest bus station, which isn't far. It's probably like a 5-10 minute drive. But then from the bus station, take the bus all the way into town, then the bus back to the bus station, then from the bus station, I drive my car home. So there's a park and drive. So there is parking available at the bus stations, and it doesn't cost anything to park at the bus stations. Just make sure you get there early enough, because the bus stations fill up very quickly, because a lot of people do the same thing. Otherwise, you've got to take a connecting bus from your house to the bus station, then from the bus station, you take the next bus into town. So since we've got 2 cars now, I rather drive to the bus station, stay there. And my wife and I will tag team. If she has to go into town, I will stay at home. So I'll run the kids around during the day and do school runs. And she will be because now we've got 2 cars, she can drive to the bus station, stay at the bus station, and then take the bus into town, come back, take a car and drive back home, or vice versa. So that's how we run that now. And then the last thing you'll want to start doing is looking at life insurance. So life insurance, I said you can budget about $220, and that's for the 2 of you. What I've done with this life insurance is, this is my own private life insurance, meaning I'm paying for this over and above. A lot of job offers, they do include the benefit of life insurance as well. So they might say, as one of the benefits of working for the company, you get double or triple your annual salary as life insurance as well. So just keep that in mind when you're busy working this out. Again, it's with a financial advisor, they could advise you better, or if you do it yourself, just keep that in mind. This life insurance I budgeted for here is $220 a month, and that will give me I've got $300,000 on my life, and it's $300,000. This would work out to $300,000 on my wife's life. So it's $600,000 in total, but 300. I do get a benefit from my company as well, so that's why I say look at that, because then it can show you your shortfall to make sure you've got enough life cover to cover whatever your expenses are, and for your family to be able to carry on after you've gone. God forbid that ever happens, but I'm just saying it means insurance. But this is what I would say you would want to consider as budget items in a dual income situation. This is my mind of you're starting to thrive now. This is not just surviving. You are now starting to do more than just surviving. You're saving towards actual holidays and going out. You're doing stuff with your family. You're starting to get out there and do. You're starting to buy luxuries. You're starting to invest. You're starting to save towards a home. You're starting to do a lot of those things. So if you look at all of that in total, that's coming to $12,444. So with an income of one earning $124,000 a year and the other $90,000 a year, that's going to give you your $12,800 a month. So it'll give you an excess of $358 based on this budget that I've put together. So again, this was just an example to try and show you so that you could start thinking and giving a plan of not only when you first initially land and what are the costs and everything that you've got to cater for in your first initial few months of being here with one income and one salary, and what the bare minimum would be. I mean, that's a big question. A lot of people in all the groups always ask, will X amount of money be enough? That's what I've been offered. Or how much money do I need to be able to live in New Zealand? So this is what I'm trying to address here, so you can come informed before you accept any offers or move across or whatever else. So you've got a real good idea, not only from what you need to survive, but also working towards striving and how much you would need. So over and above the monthlies on the two incomes, like I've broken it down over there, what I'll also show you is, again, you just got to remember there are going to be once-off costs. I will add in the car registration one here, but there's the car services. Bearing in mind you will be doubling this up now, unless you bought a new car, because like the Kia, which was a new car, comes with a 5-year 100,000 service plan, so then you wouldn't have to cater for that. So again, it depends on what car that you're buying. Then only the old car would need the servicing, which is the $300 a year. So look at that sort of thing. The WAF, the new car, for the first 5 years you don't need to worry about a WAF, only once it's after 5 years old, whereas the old car you still have to buy a WAF every single year. You will have to do registrations for both cars every single year, and neither of them is a diesel or electric, so they're petrol cars, so there's no ruck. But if you need to do a ruck, I'll just bring that in to remind you. You probably would have your residency and everything by now, so you wouldn't need those in here. Or English test, well, I hope not, unless you did really well and maybe it's only after 2 years, depending on what visas you come on, you still have to apply for residency. I don't know. It all depends. But the idea is trying to think of all those little hidden costs. Give it some thought so you've got everything written down. For what you would need to cater for over and above your living expenses every single month. So this was trying to, just to recap again, is just giving you an idea of, with one income getting paid monthly, one income paid fortnightly, but just on one income as a bare minimum of what you would need to actually make it work for a family of 4. Then what I believe you would need to consider as a plan towards getting a second income and what you can start adding on to start thriving. So that's giving you a good breakdown here. And then as I've been going through this line item by line item, I've been referring to some links of some tools and calculators and sites that you can go to. So in this template, which you'll be able to download, you will have this links tab. You'll be able to go through to the links, and this is a whole lot of different companies that I recommend you can actually go and have a look at. So if I move my face over there, starting at the top with the PAYE. So this is crucial to start working out how much you would actually be able to net based on what the offer is, and how much you'd be paying for your KiwiSaver at 3% or whatever percentage you choose, your ACC, just so that you've got a really good idea of what your net income is going to be, depending on how often you get paid, be it fortnightly, monthly, etc. But this is a good tool to be able to use. Then from here, I've broken it down with insurance. I've said car insurance or household insurance, life insurance, income protection, all different options, different companies you can go to, be it AA or Tower or Aon or One Choice. I've given you different options that you can go to here. I've tried to give a little bit of a picture so you can see what their logos look like, because sometimes that's also what's hard, is you come across to this country and it's funny how you know brands and companies and whatever and logos of the shops and everything that you use. It's just normal for you. And then suddenly you come to the other end of the world and those logos and colors and brands and everything, you don't know them. So it's hard. Just driving around, you don't know what shop to go to for what. You don't know which shop is a food shop or which shop is a DIY hardware shop or which shop is a cell phone shop or which company to go to for what. It's really, it can be a little bit of a challenge in the beginning. So I've broken it down with insurance, cell phones, internet, some options there for you, showing you some of their logos, be it Skinny or Spark or 2 Degrees, One New Zealand. I've also broken it down into, when I spoke about investments, so you can go to Milford, you can go to Fisher Funds, you can go to Simplicity. So there's different companies you can look at here, and there are more, and you can go to financial advisors and they can advise you, but these are some of the ones if you wanted to do it yourself. What you can also do is banks. So there's a whole lot of different banks and options that you got here. I only bank with 3 banks at the moment, and I've only can talk to those, which is BNZ Bank, TSB Bank, and ASB are the 3 banks that I currently bank with. So I bank with those 3. I know one of the things I didn't talk about, I did touch on personal loans with some of the companies that do personal loans here. I also spoke a little bit about the banking app. They're really big with their apps here, not only with banking, but with healthcare, they've got an app for a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff is done online so that it's paperless and everything like that. So you'll get used to the apps. Another reason you need a cell phone contract, you need a cell phone, it really works. Everything's online with apps. Maybe another point I can bring up is just also remember when you come across with a laptop or something like that, because in the very beginning, in the very first few weeks, if you're still waiting to get a laptop or something from your company, that can be a challenge too when you're applying for rentals, because everything is online and there's a lot of digital collateral you need to put together. And I talk to this in a lot of my podcasts, like when you're trying to do a rental, there's a CV that you need to write up for your family, and there's applying at the different portals, etc. You need a laptop to do that. So it's important to have a laptop or be online somehow. Sometimes just doing it on a tablet or phone, it can work, but it's hard. It's not easy. You would want a laptop. But anyway, getting back to it, your investments, so I've got links here. The banks, you've got your different banks here. Rentals, so I've spoken about real estate is the one that I was sharing in this tutorial or this video, but you have got Trade Me as well. Cars, this is a lot of what I was talking about with the government organizations when you talk about RUCs and WAFs and registration charges. Here's all the links to the government sites so you can read up about all of those tolls, etc. Buying a car, Auto Trader, anything to do with cars that I could think of, you could go here. I know there's a funny one. I've also done a video of how to fill your car with fuel. So I know some countries, like South Africa back home, we never used to have to fill or put petrol in your car, fuel in your car yourself. You'd have an attendant that helped with that. Here, totally different, all self-service. Have to do it all yourself. So I did a video on how to do that. So a bit of a laugh, but you can watch that too on my YouTube site around cars. Petrol, all the different types of garages that you can go to, petrol garages, just some examples. I've given a little bit on public transport, so I was talking about the buses and stuff. So that's AT, and there's an AT app that is invaluable that you would want to use to make sure you don't miss your buses, know which bus stops to go to, which connecting buses to take, very important. I have on my podcast spoken about traveling to and from using the buses and some of the challenges I had in the beginning. So if you listen to my podcast, I give some more detail on that. Dustbins, I told you here we had to use Econo Waste, which is a private company, but that is changing, and this is dependent on the area that you're in. Some of the shops I was talking about, so if you wanted to talk about food, Woolworths, which was Countdown, there's Pack and Save, New World, the Wonky Box that I spoke about a little bit, there's Farmer's Box. The Pack and Save is probably the budget way of buying in bulk and budget, so they're quite cost effective. New World is kind of a little bit more expensive, I say, but then they do run specials and everything like that. So I don't know, but you could go onto either one of these and get a good idea of what costs would be for food and stuff like that. Gyms, I've just given you a couple of ideas of gyms. I am with Jets Gym, which is a 24-hour gym that I'm with, and I based my budgeting on that. Hardware stores, you've got Bunnings, you've got Mitre 10. Those are the two that you'd want to go to. There's a link for those. Electronics, you'd go to Noel Leeming as an example. Just different appliances or clothes, furniture. You can look at Warehouse, Briscoe's, Farmers. So there's links for all of those. Sports stores, so like Rebel or Torpedo 7. So I'm giving you a lot of links on a lot of different places that you can go to so you can do a little bit of research for your area. Obviously, this is based on what I've used and know of and is in the Auckland area, so I can only talk to my personal experience, but this is kind of what I've put together. So I'm really hoping that this video has helped you get a better understanding of what the costs are when moving to New Zealand. As I said, I'm not trying to share this to scare you off. That is not my intention, please. My intention is really to try and help you come here with eyes wide open, well informed, know what those costs are, know what to budget for. When you're consulting and trying to apply for that first job and you're getting that first job offer, to be well informed, to know, is it enough? And if it's not enough, don't be shy or scared to negotiate and say, hey, I need a bit more. At least you know what your bare minimum is, what you really need to have. So use this video, bookmark it, go back when you're building out your budget so you can go as a refresher on the different points I've spoken about, but also so that you can download the content I've given you, do a little bit more research, use the templates I've got if you don't have your own already, and really build this out. If you can get your financial side planned out well, it's a huge burden off your shoulders. It's a big one to get right. So that's why I wanted to do this video, to really try and help you guys that are like me, moving over to this country, starting afresh, starting with your family. I really want you to hit the ground running and have a softer landing and not have a difficult time. So I really hope this has helped. If it has, I ask you, please share it for anybody else that you feel that this could potentially help, that needs to watch this, that's either planning on coming here or is here in the first stages and needs help with this sort of stuff. Please share it with them. The more people we can help, the better. Pay it forward to as many people as possible. You can go to my YouTube channel, which is Soft Landing NZ. Please follow me there. Make sure that you subscribe and you get notifications. So for all content like this and any other content I post, which I'm trying to do to help as much as possible, it'll be there for you to learn from us and do better. The goal is not only to have this content on the YouTube channel and have my podcast where I share our journey. I am also working towards getting a platform or an app up and running where, for those of you that want to be part of a community that are like-minded people that just can be there and support each other, that know what we're each going through, can join that platform and that community so we can help one another. But also what I will start doing with that community is I will load more content that's specific and just available to that private audience, which will help you even more. And what it can also do is I'll bring in guest speakers, so I could bring in some financial advisors, etc., to talk to us on different webinars to try and help us. So that's my goal, is to just try to help as much as possible to help us immigrants land here and make New Zealand home. So with that, I hope it wasn't too boring, and I hope you follow me, and I hope you got some value out of this. And yeah, you guys must just keep well, keep safe, and best of luck.